Alright, so let's take a look at these absolute value. First of all, we're going to start off with equations and then move on to inequalities. So the first time we have the absolute value of 3x minus 2 equals 8. If you remember when we were working on our PEMDAS section, we talked about absolute value meaning the distance from 0. So whatever number you get in this absolute value, it's going to come out positive. Whether that number is positive 8, the absolute value of positive 8 is 8, and the absolute value of negative 8 is also 8, because both are 8 places away from 0. So when you come across an equation involving an absolute value, you need to split it in half. 3x minus 2 can come out as positive 8, or 3x minus 2 could come out as negative 8, and in both situations, the absolute value would change that number to positive, and it would be a correct solution. So you actually solve this as two separate equations. Get 10/3 for the first one, and negative 2 for the second one. And think about plugging this in if you want to check. 3 times 10/3 minus 2. 3 times 10/3 would be 10 minus 2, which would be 8. The absolute value of 8 is 8. It checks. Plug in the other one. 3 times negative 2 minus 2, absolute value. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Negative 6 minus 2 is negative 8. Absolute value of negative 8 is 8. So your solution set here would be both of these values of x, 10/3 and negative 2. Now notice I used kind of weird squiggle brackets instead of parentheses. Those indicate that that's a set of answers, not a point. So if you look at an equation, well, not an equation anymore, an inequality like this, we need all of the numbers that when you put them inside an absolute value would be less than 3. Well, if you start to think about this just as far as a number line goes, one number that's less than 3 is 2. Another number that's less than 3 is 1. So is 0. So is negative 1. But now we have to start thinking when you think about negatives inside an absolute value. The absolute value of negative 1 is going to be 1, which is still less than 3, so we're good. How about negative 2? The absolute value of negative 2 is 2, which is still less than 3, so that one works. Now, 3 wouldn't work because there's no equal to sign. And that's true for positive or negative 3. But every other number in between there would work. So do you see how this situation becomes an and? Negative 3 is less than x is less than 3. So an absolute value less than a number turns into an and situation. If you would like to try this one, think about it being an or. A number minus 4 has to be greater than 1. Pause this video for a second and give that one a try. How did you do? A greater than symbol ended up breaking into an or. And that's what we are talking about in this chart up on the next page. An absolute value inequality could be anything. Ax plus c less than b, or ax plus c greater than b. And these are true for greater than or equals to signs. Your compound inequality, think about this. This is a less than symbol. every time you have a less than symbol, you are going to break it into a compound inequality involving and, so less than symbol. A greater than symbol is always going to break into an or. Ax plus c greater than b, or ax plus c has to be less than negative b, so that when you find the absolute value of it, it will in turn be greater. You could fill in the examples from the last page if you would like, or you could just start solving these bottom questions. Now, if you notice, over on the right hand side here, you must isolate the absolute value first. What that means is if you take a look at this first one, it should exactly match the example. This second one matches the example. The third one, on the other hand, now, if you notice, your absolute value is in the middle of this equation, or of this inequality, excuse me. You need to isolate that first before you break it into a compound inequality. You need to add your 8 and divide by your 3. Then you'll have an absolute value that is less than or equal to a certain number. At that point, you can break it into a compound inequality. So what I would like you to do is try the rest of the problems in this packet. There are a few. Keep in mind you can have answers like no solution or all real numbers. So just pay attention to that and try those problems.